Hello and welcome to episode 47 of the Wisdom from the Akasha podcast. This is the last podcast of 2024. I just want to take this opportunity to thank everyone who listens to the podcast, who rates the podcast, who leaves comments on the podcast. I have an absolute amazing time recording these episodes, whether they are the solo episodes by myself or conversations with others. I love the opportunity to be able to do a really deep dive into topics. To finish off the year, I'm going to share with you a conversation between myself and Carlie Wyton. Carlie is a former student of mine. She graduated and she now uses a combination of traditional psychotherapy and psychology and the Akashic Records to really help her clients become empowered, understand themselves, and of course, move forward in alignment to their highest timeline. Carlie is a beautiful soul. As always, I will put the contact details in the show notes. And I really hope you enjoy listening into our conversation where we talk about Carlie's work with the Akashic Records and her own spiritual journey. I have lots of really good topics in line for podcast episodes for 2025. Always remember that you can drop a question or an episode suggestion via my website for the podcast. And I look forward to hearing from you all. I will now leave you with the conversation and I will see you all in 2025. Hello and welcome to today's guest, Carlie. Carlie is a psychotherapist who also has ventured into the world of the Akashic Records. So I am really excited to have this conversation with her today and for you guys to get an understanding as to how the Akashic Records can be used not just as a standalone practice, but also in conjunction with what you would class as more traditional practices. And this offers a much more holistic view and a holistic perspective for practitioner and also the client. So welcome, Carlie.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here. I'm a big fan.
So first of all, the question I ask everybody is, how do you feel the Akashic Records have helped you in your journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. The Akashic Records came into my life really at the perfect time. I had been through a process of sort of deconstructing all kinds of systems that I'd been raised in, religious systems, political systems, and then scientific systems as a psychologist as well. And so I'd been in the stage of deconstruction, I guess. And I wasn't sure that I was ready for reconstruction, but I came across the Akashic Record through this beautiful reader who I connected with. And I did this reading just out of curiosity. And I was amazed that this person who didn't know me at all could be confirming and affirming everything that I thought I knew about myself. And it really allowed me to, I would say, trust my knowledge, myself, my beliefs, my knowings. It really allowed me to, I don't know, yeah, trust. And so then I thought, okay, this is something here and I want to build more. And so I came and studied with you. And now the Akashic Records are a place for me for guidance. They're a place for me for balancing, for healing, for recharging, and for discernment. It's a really beautiful thing to be able to have access to.
I love that. And just because you are an ex-student of mine, Carlie is now a full graduate, so she can offer the full range of services. How did you find the training? And be honest.
I loved the training. I really loved the training. I loved that we met live. That's something that isn't always offered anymore, especially as a psychotherapist. I'm always doing loads of trainings, and it's usually just kind of an asynchronous, tune in, do it when you want to do it. I loved that we met live. I loved that you taught from your heart. I love how you get so on your tangents and you get scattered and you come back to yourself. It's so fun. Um, and I took really, really detailed notes and then went back and watched the videos and took more detailed notes. And I love that you left so much of it to us. I'm sure I was one of the people that was like, do you have notes for us? Do you have diagrams? And you were like, no, that's not what happens here.
Yes, I don't do that out of cruelty. It's because when I write the courses, I write them in the Akashic Records. And I remember saying to them, do I not need a workbook for this? And they said, no, because you give people a workbook, they're not going to pick the information that's most relevant to them. And of course,
Exactly.
as you know, there are certain things, certain phrases in those classes which are very activating for you as an individual. They wouldn't necessarily be that way for somebody else. So the taking the time to digest, let it marinate, and then pull out what the most important pieces is actually a very important part of the class. So it isn't done out of cruelty, I promise. I try to provide kind of crib notes and things as best as I can in certain places, but that process is very important for you as a student. And I think it really does help people as much as they don't want to do it. I think when they do it, they actually see the benefit of it.
I totally agree. I think that was a huge learning tool, especially for academics like myself who are used to there's a textbook and there's a workbook and there's an assignment. And there's for you, it was like, okay, I'm going to teach you a bunch of stuff. Now go practice. And when you come back, report. And I love that people could share. It was like this for me. It was like that for me because that was validating for me when I thought, okay, I'm not getting this like clear audio all the time. I'm seeing things or I'm feeling things or it was so beautiful to see just how individual it is for every person. And you kept saying it. And then everybody came and got to share that. And that was powerful, powerful learning.
I love that. Because not only do the Akashic Records find you when they're ready, as they did with you, but they want to work with you as a beautiful, unique, authentic individual that you are. And that's going to be different to how they work through me. And it's going to be different how they work through everybody else. And that should be encouraged and nourished. It shouldn't be a case of any teacher shouldn't be trying to make little mini-me's, little versions of themselves, because that isn't how the Akashic Records are. So I love that. And thank you for sharing. So tell us about your own spiritual journey. Just share with us what you feel comfortable in sharing.
My own spiritual journey. I think the most important thing for me now in the spiritual journey is to realize that it's okay to flow, that it's okay to flow and grow and not remain stagnant. So for me, I was raised within a religious system that was quite a fixed system. And I won't speak poorly about that because it really did give me a huge base, even though I did have to deconstruct so much of it. I think what I'm realizing is now I can reclaim bits and pieces of that, the more spiritual aspects of that, the more mystic aspects of that, and leave the dogma behind. And that I think for me with my spiritual journey has been so it doesn't have to be like this and it doesn't have to be like that. It can be somewhere in between. And where it is right now looks different than last year. And where it will be next year will probably look different than where it is now. My spiritual journey is like it's flow. I'm obsessed with the ocean. I live on an island beside the ocean. And if there's anything that speaks to me, it's flow and the power of flow. It's not just placid laying there, letting the universe take you. It's powerful and it's strong and it directs you where you need to go and moves, you know? So, yeah, my spiritual journey went from fixed to very unfixed, but I'm way more grounded, I would say now than ever.
I love that. And I think what people don't realize about all religions, because what can happen a lot of the time on the spiritual journey is people come from religious trauma and they have to go through a deconstruction process. But what they don't tend to realize is that all of the world religions out there were started with an original impulse. There was an impulse behind those religions, which is beautiful and true and just expansive. And when you look at how religions have become, there is this kind of the outer dogmatic presenting face. And then they had always a kind of an inner circle. So with Christianity, you would have esoteric Christianity. With Hinduism, you would have Tantra. You know, they all have this kind of more esoteric, mystical side to them. But because of the dogma, the trauma that people have experienced, and then the deconstruction process, oftentimes people will throw a lot of actually very good teachings from the esoteric aspects of those individual religions. It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And then what we end up with in the spiritual community and the New Age especially is lots of different concepts and lots of different ideas, but no system of understanding. So no cosmology, no breakdown of, okay, well, what does this actually mean? What's the definition for this word? When I find a lot of the time that people will have an understanding of, they'll have an inclination of what karma or reincarnation means, but not understand how that affects the soul and the soul's evolution and the soul's evolutionary journey, not only through Earth, but also the cosmos, because they've kind of thrown the baby out with bathwater. So I'm a huge fan of understanding the original impulse behind the religion and the esoteric teachings that are associated to different religious systems. But the dogma is, I think, where the majority of the problems come in for people. And the world will be a much greater place when people can go back to what that original impulse is and the more esoteric teachings of the impulse than just sticking with the dogma. And the dogma works for some people. Here are your rules. These are the rules that you have to abide by. These are the rituals that you have to do. And then, you do all of this and you're all good. And that works for some people. But I know when you have that fire inside, that spiritual spark, that's not enough. And that's obviously what you have within you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's exactly it. And a lot of my clients will come from some sort of religious background that they're no longer practicing or that they still understand to some degree, or they really still are practicing. And I say, this is like your mother tongue. This is how you learned how to form concepts into words. This is your mother tongue. And it's okay if we use your mother tongue to help expand these ideas that your soul knows. Your soul recognized something in this that you were given as a child or in this that you found on your original search. And we can use that and we can grow from that. We can pick from it. Or if you're interested in multiple religions and you know a bit about each, let's find the strands. Because religions are kind of like that story with the monk where all the blind monks, I think that's the story. All the blind monks where an elephant walks into the village and everybody touches the part of the elephant and describes the elephant from the part, we've got this one big, huge thing about existence and the universe and creation and all of it. And everybody's just describing it in the way that they could feel and describing it in the way that they could touch and see effectively. And so, yeah, if we can just kind of go back a little and realize that your mother tongue gives you something, and now let's go from there. Let's learn more languages. I kind of like that idea.
I love that. It's one of my favorite parables, that story about the blind monks and the elephant, because it shows how often we are so limited by our perspective, by our programs and our conditions, that we are seeing the world through a set of goggles, and those goggles are preconceived to be this way, this funnel. And I think one of the main things that you do on the spiritual journey is not only an expansion of, you take the goggles off and get into this expanded awareness, but then you also have to take a lot of radical self-responsibility and say, okay, I have to own the limiting beliefs and perspectives that I'm still buying into. And I have to do my own deprogramming and deconditioning. There's no knight in shining armor with his magic wand who's going to come along and do all of that work for me. And that is where the real deep, hard work is identifying and then deconstructing and deconditioning.
Yes. And that isn't easy. I mean, for some people, I guess maybe it can be a little bit easier. For me, it triggered autoimmune diseases. I began the process of and I don't know. I knew that things were needing some change. I needed to start looking at things. I had a beautiful practitioner who I was working with who was really helping me. And right away, it triggered autoimmune responses. And I started being in pain all over my body. My joints were in pain. I was exhausted all the time. And I had doctors telling me, this is your life now. And I just thought, how did this happen? I started down this sort of mental and emotional process, and all of a sudden I'm in this physical agony.
Mhm.
And it was the worst and the best thing that could ever happen to me, which I think most people will end up saying on the other end
Mhm.
of this
Yeah.
spiritual deconstruction and taking ownership of your experience, because I sought out the different systems that were available to me for healing. And I realized that none of them were in alignment with me. And I found a way to return back to the earth, to return back to myself, to return back to trusting what source had provided all along. And alongside that, have a lot more time because I was in bed a lot to pray, to meditate, to go places that I maybe wouldn't have had time to go because I was so busy being so awesome out there in the world with all of my structured beliefs.
Mhm.
And it was incredibly difficult and incredibly powerful and nourishing. And I mean, I'm completely symptom free now. I have absolutely no disease showing up in my body, except every once in a while, my body reminds me, hey, are you living in alignment? Because there will be a little pain here or a little something flare here. And it's just for me, I've come into a relationship with it. That's my little notice. I'm not living in alignment. What is it that I'm doing that's not in alignment? What am I listening to? What am I forgetting? What practice am I leaving off to the side that I need to bring back in? And it's been, yeah, it's painful. And a lot of clients, I find a lot of my clients who find me are somewhere at that point. They're like,
Mhm.
my life is falling apart. I can't stop seeing synchronicities, or I can't stop being in pain, or I can't stop. What is going on? And so that's been a really cool experience to me to realize that this process I had to go through is now serving the people who are finding me.
I love that. And do you want to talk more about the work that you do and how you kind of weave together the more traditional systems and now the Akashic Records?
Sure. So I would say that understanding my soul mission has been a big part of this whole process for me. And realizing that I'm part way shower and part healer and part and has allowed me, obviously, as a psychotherapist, as a counselor, I was a youth worker before. I was always working in these areas, but now realizing it on a spiritual level, on a soul purpose level, it's just so much deeper than that now. It's so much richer than that now. So now I realize that the clients who find me, and I say that because I don't really do any promotion at all. I'm available and people find me. The clients who find me, the people who find me, they're usually at one of the stages that's needed. So maybe they need to be shown the way through. They need me to help sort of shine a light for them because they're just in this like darkness of fear, and everything feels really big and really scary right now. And so I just help usher them through what it is they're going through with some grounding and some peace. And I do it from a psychological perspective. I use a lot of body. I use the polyvagal kind of, I work with the autonomic nervous system. So I help them use their bodies. I help them use their minds. I use some traditional talk therapy, some traditional psychotherapy, some more somatic practices. And I'm able to use the spiritual practice as well. So sometimes people need to be shown the way to healing. And I say I have this built-in healing thing, but really what I love to help people do is find out how much they can heal themselves. And a lot of the time, they need me for a little while until they realize they don't anymore. And that's my goal always. And so I also sometimes am the role of encourager. Like they can see it, they just can't quite touch it. Or they can see it and they know they can do it, but they just don't quite have the confidence. And so that's how I kind of combine this like way shower, healer, encourager concept. And I found, okay, first I found that a lot of the time I was like, this has got to have some past life stuff in it, or this has got to have some soul purpose. I want to explain to you that your soul purpose needs this process you're going through. How do I do that? And I would refer people out. to an Akashic record reader that I knew, or to your Instagram or whatever. And when I started studying with you, it really was honestly just so that I could do it myself, because I thought, I don't love to give that access away. I would like to be able to have this practice and understand it and know it. And pretty quickly I was like, I could offer this. I could offer this as extra. Not everybody wants it, and that's totally fine. I wouldn't even say all my clients know that I do it. Maybe now they do, but I just realized I can offer this, and we can explore something that psychologically we haven't been able to figure out or undo. Or we've done the layer of psychology, we've done the layer of embodiment, we've done these layers, and there's still more. And then we go in and we do more of an Akashic check. And, oh, wow, this is connected to this past life. Oh, wow, this is a practice that you can include that can really help clear this up, or really help you to process this the way it needs to be processed. And I just started offering it slowly but slowly. I practiced on friends. I practiced on people that I knew. And I think I knew before I knew that this was something that I could offer. As a psychotherapist, we have really strict kind of rules and controls. Again, it's a very systemic situation. In the country where I'm from, I think in most countries, this is what you can do, this is what you can't. And I really like to offer something way more holistic than that. I like to talk about beliefs and diet and vitamins and, this astrology reading that you're doing. I don't practice astrology myself, but people love that, and it's very helpful. And I like it too. I just don't do it. But you know what I mean? I love to really be more holistic. And I thought, okay, this is it. This is that spiritual soul level stuff that can really dig into all of it. And first it was the understanding of readings, and then the understanding of clearings. And whoa, this is it. Now I can make my own combo. So I deconstructed a little bit, even from the system, the governing system of psychotherapy from where I'm from. I live on an island now. I kind of practice on an island, and I have my own way of flowing it. And I offer Akashic readings on their own. If people just want to do that. But I love to offer them in combination with counseling, with what do I do to integrate this information, even, because that sometimes can be a lot. You get a reading and you're like, whoa, now what?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot more awareness now for all people in whichever fields that they're in, that we do have to take a much more holistic approach for everybody, not only to evolve, also to be healthier, in every way, mentally healthier, emotionally healthier. And sometimes Akashic readings aren't what you need. Sometimes you need traditional counseling. You need a psychotherapist. And I'm all for that. If somebody comes to me and says, I've been through this situation, will an Akashic reading help? I'll say no, but you need a counselor or you need a therapist, because there is something that needs to be worked on. But when you, as you say, clearing through certain layers of things, and then you still know there's something more, then going into the more spiritual dimensions and seeing ourselves from that objective soul level perspective that the Akashic Records offers, can be that just that final piece of the puzzle that someone says, oh my God, well, of course that happens. And when they get that validation, because a lot of the time I find in the Akashic Records, they have an inkling, for example, that someone will have an inkling that there's witch wounding going on there.
Yeah.
And then when they find it out, they go, oh, well, of course, that makes so much sense. And then because they have that validation, that inner voice that was telling them that, yes, this is something that you've experienced, it then empowers them. Because I'm like you, I like to say goodbye to people. And I don't mean that in any way at all, other than I love to be able to help people as I can help them, give them the information, give them all of what they need, and then let them go off and live their best life. A teacher's job is to empower you with everything that you need, and then you go make it your own. You go work with it. Because I think there are too many people out there in all walks of life that want people to be codependent on them, that want people to be working with them for 10 years and you're still at the same therapist. That's not healthy either. It's just people being preyed upon.
Well, and that comes from our allopathic understanding of, I would say, medicine, or even a little bit earlier than that, where we would rely on a priest. We would rely on a priest, or now we rely on a doctor. We need to make sure that somebody else is telling us that we're okay. And really, a huge part of this process, this individuation process that we're on in our psychological journey, I hope, is that we get to a place where we know we are okay. And when we're not, we have the resources to help ourselves. We have the resources. I am always trying to layer and teach and give resources and coping skills and strategies. And I say to my clients all the time, being healed or being through this or being whatever it is you're looking to be, it doesn't mean that hard things don't happen. It doesn't mean that bad things don't happen. It means that you know how to care for yourself when they happen. You know how to trust yourself to get yourself through it. And I'm always here. I have clients who will send me a message, every 6 weeks and be like, "Hey, can I just book in for just a little check-in or a little chat?" And they just want to talk through what they went through, how they handled it. And I think sometimes they just want that, like, you've totally got this, that little reminder, and then they're great. I love my clients to have everything they need to go off and live their best life.
I love that. So tell us more about the offerings that you have going into 2025.
Well, I am officially launching this Akashic counseling niche of mine. So I
Love
have
that.
been a counselor and a psychotherapist on my own for a few years now. And I started doing the Akashic stuff. I played around with it all year. People have found me and done it. I've tried it with clients, and I am working with my business guides to build bundles in order to offer a real blend. So people can start with me with a reading. They can start with me with a counseling session that then goes into a reading. We can decide what it is that they're looking for. Every single client of mine has a different kind of treatment because everything is so individual and so holistic. So I would meet with somebody, we would decide what route they want to take, but I'm going to offer these little bundles where maybe you get 2 readings, 2 counseling sessions, and at the end of that, a clearing. I'm happy to do clearings with people, but certainly not until I've seen that they've done some of the work that I believe is important to do first. You have autonomy as a being. You have the opportunity to do your psychological work. If you've experienced a trauma right now here, it would feel great to just spiritually bypass that and have somebody else clear it up. That's not how it works. Your soul is here having this journey and it's had this trauma, and it's counting on you to work it out. It's counting on you to process it. So come, let's process it. Let's do a reading and understand why it's happening. That's maybe really empowering. And then let's process it. Let's work on it, however, psychologically or spiritually we need to. And then let's do that clearing if you still need it. So I'm working on little bundles. They're going to be on my website. You can grab these 2 for this deal, these 3 for that deal, these 6 for that deal. It's my first time ever doing anything like this because I've always just been a straight psychotherapist. You pay per session and that's what it is. And now I'm offering my little blended niche.
I love
And
it.
I'm excited because I think it will lead to other things, but I'm really excited for people to find me as an Akashic reader who offers counseling therapy, and I offer qualified counseling therapy. And I think that's a really, really important distinction from some of the things that I see online and that I see out there. And at this point, my prices are pretty competitive. So that's helpful for people because I really try and be accessible to the masses as much as I can be. So that might be something that helps people to feel like they can do it, they can go for it.
And I love that because I think what's happened, certainly 2024 has been the falling of false light, the masks coming off, we've seen this a lot. And I think what's happened with a lot of people in the spiritual community who are looking for help with things, they've been burned. People have taken their money, made them promises, and they haven't had the experience that they'd hoped for. Maybe they've been told certain things could happen. So for them to have that confidence that coming to see you, you are someone who has done the actual official training and has that behind them as well, it will give them that comfort that, oh, I can also look at my spiritual side through the Akashic Records, but I'm doing it with someone who is qualified, who is trauma informed, which is extremely important,
Yeah.
and who has that bigger picture perspective and the professional credentials.
Yeah, I consider myself like I'm bridging this gap that we have between this allopathic, scientific, this is the way version of things, and then the spiritual, well, I charged under the full moon and I have all this information to share. I kind of bridge the gap there because I do have the spiritual offering and training, right? I went to you, I did all the courses, I made sure that I wasn't just making stuff up. And I have the master's degree in psychology and the years of practicing in the system. And I do hope that that bridge helps people feel really safe to walk across and find themselves where they need to on the bridge. Oh, I need more psychology. I'm going to go back this way. Okay, I want to go a little more spiritual. I want to go this way. And I have a really safe, sturdy bridge for you to walk across. And that was hard one. That was years and years of doing my own work. I shouldn't say was, is very much a constant process of doing my own work, of having all of the degrees and certificates that I really believe will help people feel safe, have helped me feel safe when I've looked for practitioners. And this is not to say that I am like an incredible expert at everything. I am a work in progress, just like we all are. I have an ego, just like we all do. I have imposter syndrome, just like we all do. But I have incredible guides who comfort me and help me. And I have a really strong sense of self-compassion through lots of my work. So I model and I live what I teach, and I make that promise for my clients and for people interested in working with me.
I love that. And of course, I will put in the show notes for today all of Carlie's details so you know how to get hold of her, how to work with her. I'll put her website in there. One question I would like to ask you is if you had one go-to spiritual practice for everybody, one thing that you would recommend that anybody can do that you found so beneficial to help your clients, people that you know, what would that one go-to practice be?
If any of my clients are listening right now, they know what I'm going to say. Grounding. Absolutely grounding, 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 grounding. And I know you talk about it all the time. So that really attracted me to you as well. We share that grounding with the earth as often as possible. Now, when I first started working, I was living in cold, cold Canada, and grounding in the earth was sometimes really, really hard. But grounding in the earth as often as possible, reconnecting with Earth's electric magnetic charge, knowing that we're here on this earth for a reason. Get your feet in there. If you're able, get in the ocean, get in some water. And then grounding in self as well, grounding in that beautiful body that you've been gifted in this lifetime. You know, you always talk about making a cup of tea. Yeah, sip that cup of tea or move your body, dance, move your body, rub your feet on the earth just to remind yourself that you're here in this body. Grounding, grounding, grounding. Always come back to the here, to the now, to the I'm in this body and I'm breathing and that's enough. That's my practice. That's my practice for everybody I know.
I love it. And I think it's often the simplest practices that are the most beneficial and also the most difficult because with society the way that it is, we're distracted, we're busy, we've got so many different things wanting our attention all of the time. To actually sit and just be and connect to earth is such an act of rebellion now. Because it's like, well, I'm just going to disconnect and I'm just going to be and I'm just going to be in my body. And it's like, no, consume over here, watch this, do this. And we've got everything vying for our attention, but it is so powerful and so beneficial. And I think with a lot of people, especially women, where they find grounding with earth and feeling into and being with their body so difficult is because it brings up a lot of wounding that is living within the body.
Yes.
A lot of the pain, a lot of the repressed emotions, everything that they have repressed throughout their lifetime, and also the programming and conditioning that women have around their bodies and how it should be, how it should look. A lot comes up, especially for women when they're doing that process, which can, of course, feel very uncomfortable and very difficult.
Yeah, the collective wounding that we carry in our bodies, the collective from society now, from society's past. It's a lot, and it is heavy and it is hard, and it is also something that we can shift perspective. I work a lot with gratitude and gratitude practices, and it's a perspective shift. You have the gift to get to heal this collective wounding by feeling it, by working with it. You get to join in the healing, the collective healing for our daughters, for our nieces, for the next generation of young women who maybe won't hurt quite so hard when they sit in their bodies. So, yes, it's difficult. And yes, it's important. And it is something that we can shift our perspective to be grateful for and to take ownership of. And I get to heal my grandmother's wounding by accepting my pain and my mother's and my daughter's. What a gift.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So, do you have any final words that you would like to share with the listeners? Anyone who's going through their spiritual awakening, they're having a really difficult time, signs are happening, senses are coming on, like all over the place, maybe going through the dark night of the soul. What would your words of wisdom and encouragement be for someone going through that?
Mm. Well, that's a whole other podcast, Susie. Yeah. I I think trust that you're not alone. Trust that this is a process that so many of us are embarking on now because we're here in this incredible time. And there are more and more people going through this. There are more and more people who are kind of through it, who are here and making ourselves available to help you to get through it, to see the light. And I would say develop little practices where you collect. So collect what you're seeing and feeling and whatever. Make it a little collection. I have a client, she's so beautiful. And she was coming to me saying, I see it's synchronicities everywhere, 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 everywhere. And I had this little float into my mind, a little guide speaking, saying, tell her to collect them, make a list and collect them like fireflies in a jar. And so when you see your synchronicities or when you notice certain pains over and over and over, make it a collection and imagine them like fireflies in a jar. And at the beginning, it'll feel like one bug, two bugs, a few bugs. But eventually, that jar will be so full and it will be so bright that it will actually be your light in the darkness. It will be the thing that helps you see as you're going through this dark night, this dark experience, this dark time. Collect whatever it is that keeps showing itself to you and collect them like fireflies in a jar because then you'll have a big old light. And when you make it to the other side, you can help light the way for others.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So thank you so, so much for taking the time to be on this episode today. I will, of course, have you back at some point in the future so we can get into more topics. And there's
Awesome.
definitely people will want to hear more about what you're doing throughout 2025. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so beautiful.